whether that's an injury, whether that's going into a year not knowing who your quarterback's going to be, or whether or not you kind of got a battle, which can play into that second point that I made. This year, you go in and you know absolutely who your starter is, and that's similar to last season. So it's a couple years in a row where you absolutely know that Spencer Rattler is going to be the guy.
Yeah, and I think we talked about it with Spencer when he was in here. That just opens up a whole new world, I think, for him. This time last year, he kind of put his head down and went to work, both by his own indications and indications we heard from pretty much everybody else as he just came in, didn't want to, I think he has a realization for who he is and how big his name is and didn't want to just come in and, for lack of a better way to say it, just kind of try to take over. And so, this time last year, he's just kind of trying to, be one of the guys, I think. And so now you have a year under your belt. You've been here for a full year. You have a much better understanding of, how the program works, just the area you're into, just everything that has to do with going off to a new place for the first time. And now he's been the starter for a full year. I think that opens the door for Spencer to be just more of a leader in this group, to where you're not just the starter, but you are kind of the face of the offense. I think, talking to Juice Wells on one of the Garnet Trust interviews, he kind of had the same realization, like, hey, I can come in now and be the guy for the wide receivers and sort of be the person who pushes everybody else. Leadership is one of those things that is difficult sometimes to put into words. It's sometimes difficult to put into action. And, a guy sort of coming in and telling you what to do can be perceived with the exact same words, could be perceived one way or could be perceived completely differently. So you do have to be careful. And I think having Spencer Rattler back with a year under his belt and doing things the right way, it just opens the door for him to be able to deliver a message to his teammates and it actually be accepted, which maybe would not have been the case if Rattler just showed up and started barking out orders and acting like he was the guy and just sort of took on that leadership role right off the bat.
Yeah, and that could have, you kind of think back to how last year went, right? If Spencer had come, there was so much made about Spencer when he got to South Carolina. People digging up Netflix clips from when he was, 16 years old and pretending that he was the exact same person as a, 21, 22-year-old, kind of making leaps about what may have happened at Oklahoma, what may have happened in high school, and making a lot of assumptions. And you're right, there were no issues at South Carolina, certainly none publicly, none that we heard of, and totally co-signed there, Wes, where we just heard nothing but good things about him keeping his head down and working. If you kind of look back at how the season went, had Spencer Rattler come in, or anybody, any guy who transferred into the program, not just him, at a key position, just come in, not known anybody, not have done anything at this place yet, and not forged and built those relationships and kind of been in the trenches, so to speak, and done that, and then had some struggles throughout the year, that could have really, really backfired. But as it turned out, everybody, they had those ups and downs as a team. Spencer Rattler had his individual ups and downs during the year, but Shane Beamer and Spencer Rattler, the rest of the coaches, the rest of the players, they all stayed together so that they could accomplish what they did at the end of the year, which was a lot.
I think when you have transfers too, man, it's more difficult than ever to bring a team together. And, you always have turnover on a roster in college sports because obviously, guys graduate, they leave. And that used to be the case. If a guy was a contributor and he, quote, left early, that meant he was still there for 3 years. And guys still transfer, but it was more, honestly, the players that weren't most of the time contributing much, or maybe there was an issue, an off the field, disciplinary type thing. But for the most part, if you were playing, you stuck around. Now you have guys leaving, you have guys coming in. Teams have more roster turnover than ever. So I think it makes it more difficult on coaches across the country to try and bring these teams together. And so for Beamer, this is one thing we talked about with him in our sit down with him a few weeks ago, was basically like, how do you walk that line between the guys who are in year 3, year 4, not just like maybe tuning you out a little bit because they get tired of your catchphrases, they get tired of your same message, while also having to have the realization that, hey, this guy's new, this guy's new, this guy's a freshman and he's new, this guy's a junior and he's new and has been at 2 other schools in some cases. So I think to bring a team together and to keep them together, to keep them all pulling in the same direction is more difficult than ever. But it helps when you have players themselves that I guess acknowledge that or understand that. And I think Rattler did that. It's kind of to tie all this together. Cassis, what do you say? Coach fed, player led. I don't know if I've heard that. I guess it's not a cliche because I haven't heard it before. It's definitely a coachy type thing, but it makes sense. Which I took that to mean like, your coaches are going to give you the ingredients. They're going to give you what you need. They're going to give you the message you need. But the players ultimately have to take it and apply it, and they have to use it, as far as spreading it to the rest of the team and just buying into it as well.
Well, I was going back to what you guys were saying about Rattler's maturity, and like you said, people like to bring up that clip from him on the QB1 show on Netflix when he was 16 or 17 or whatever, just from the perspective of him sitting down in here with us for the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour the day that he did a couple of weeks back. You can see there's a night and day difference between who that person was and who he is now. And, he understands what a big part of this program he is, and the success of what they're going to have in 2023 was him coming back. And you can tell he's definitely bought into what Shane Beamer is building here and, hoping for the most success this fall.
Yeah. And, Spencer has obviously experienced a lot of things, and it's not too big for him to have that kind of burden. I mean, the expectations when he got to South Carolina, heck, before he got to South Carolina, just the idea, if you can remember, of even the rumor that he may hit the transfer portal, and people just maybe guessing that might happen, and automatically a lot of people around South Carolina fans are looking around going, oh man, what if that happened? Hey, Shane Beamer was on the staff at Oklahoma. Hey, the quarterback situation here is not as good. What if we could get this guy? And so you're automatically then making that leap. This guy can come in and save the program, And when he got to South Carolina, the expectations put upon him. But this is someone that was a 5-star quarterback. He was the number 1 quarterback in his class in 2019. He put up some huge numbers that 2020 season at Oklahoma, and at one time had his name on Heisman lists. And so he's used to that level of spotlight, but he's also gone through some things that, did not go certainly as he envisioned. He probably, when he committed to Oklahoma and signed with them, and after that season he had in 2020, didn't anticipate, losing the starting job and then leaving and those things happening and transferring to South Carolina. It wasn't really, even when he went to transfer, South Carolina wasn't probably the first school on the radar for him. So I think he has that kind of good perspective, that gratefulness that Shane Beamer really tries to instill in the players. And I think he's just really kind of endeared himself to the program and done a really good job of, year one, keeping his head down and then showing throughout the course of the year what he can do, growing as a player and helping to grow the rest of his team as well.
We'll continue to talk about quarterback depth for the spring practices coming up next week on the other side here on the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs on 107.5 The Game.
The 107.5 The Game Spring Golf Classic is coming Friday, March 24th at Charwood Golf Club in West Columbia. Call Charwood at 803-755-2000 to register. It's $100 a person, $400 a team. We'll have autographed gear from Gamecock athletes, and one person will win season tickets to all remaining USC baseball games. Lunch provided by Firehouse Subs. The 107.5 The Game Spring Classic, Friday, March 24th. Call Charwood at 803-755-2000 to register. From your home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game.
This is Damon Amendolara with your CBS Sports Minute, sponsored by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Bitterness is never an attractive trait, and Jim Boeheim has it in bucket loads. He became bitter that some fans wanted him to retire, that media would question his effectiveness, that the sport had changed so dramatically that his peers had all retired. So when Boeheim was told yesterday Syracuse didn't want him to return, instead of a happy send-off this year, we got another big mug of bitter. This is Damon Amendolara. CBS Sports Radio. This March, take your first shot at college hoops with FanDuel Sportsbook and get 10 times your first bet amount in bonus bets up to $200. That's right. Just bet $20 on the bracket and you'll land $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. That's $200 you can spend betting everything from the money line to point spreads to that 5 versus 12 seed matchup you've been eyeing. All on an app that's safe, secure, and super easy to use. There's no better place to bet the tournament than FanDuel Sportsbook. Sign up today by going to FanDuel.com/win and make every moment more with FanDuel all tournament long.
Must be present in state where lawful to wager. 21 plus in select states. First online real money wager only. $10 deposit required. Refund issued as non-withdrawable sportsbook bonus bets that expire in 14 days. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. FanDuel is offering sports wagering in Kansas under an agreement with Kansas Star Casino LLC. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit FanDuel.com/RG. Colorado, Iowa, Michigan, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Illinois, Tennessee, Virginia. 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342 Arizona. 1-888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org/chat in Connecticut. 1-800-9-WITH-IT in Indiana. 1-800-522-4700 or visit KSGamblingHelp.com Kansas. 1-877-770-STOP Louisiana. Visit MDGamblingHelp.org in Maryland. 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369 New York. 1-800-522-4700 Wyoming or visit 1-800-GAMBLER.net West Virginia.
Finding great people to hire is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. It's pretty difficult, right? Well, ZipRecruiter has mastered finding a needle in a haystack, so they take it to the next level. They make hiring so simple that it's like finding a needle in a needle stack. And that's why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Here's what it's like to use ZipRecruiter. They have so many qualified candidates that it's easier to find the right ones for your roles. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's a lot of needles. So how do they do it? ZipRecruiter's powerful technology sends you candidates who are a great match for your job, and you can even invite your top choices to apply. So if you want less hay and more needles, head to ZipRecruiter.
And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Prescription products require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if a prescription is appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for full details and important safety information. Subscription required.
Hey guys, did you know there's a generic form of Viagra that works just the same, but is 90% cheaper? And you can get it online? Just go to 4hims.com/radio. At Hims, you'll get a free medical consultation, discreet shipping if prescribed, a 100% online process, and trusted generic alternatives to the biggest brands at 90% off. That's right, get generic for Viagra, the same active ingredient as brand name Viagra, but 90% cheaper. It's the same medication you get from your doctor, but with zero copay, no expensive appointments, and no awkward face-to-face conversations. To start your free online visit, you need to go to this exclusive address, 4hims.com/radio. That's 4hims.com/radio for your free online visit. FORHIMS.com/RADIO.
This is for the men who never settle, the ones who believe only quitters end a game in a tie, the type of guys who choose the bar with the biggest TVs to overcompensate for theirs at home, and the men who use PTO to catch afternoon basketball in March with the boys. This is the Lodge mentality. This is Twin Peaks.
Who wants to settle for a single TV? With more TVs, bigger screens, plus our fabulous scenic views, there's more to watch at Twin Peaks.
Doco Ribfest is coming to Doco Meadows Park March 10th and 11th in Blythewood. Music, food, fun, and 10,000 pounds of ribs and cook-off competition. Friday evening movie night and music by Too Much Sylvia. Saturday's music is Joseph's Racing Band, Common Time Bluegrass Band, Blues Deluxe, Drum Side of the Tracks, and Tokyo Joe. Free admission and park and shuttle service. For tickets and more info, visit DocoRibFest.com. Presented by the town of Blythewood, Chamber of Commerce, Room Heating and Air, and Doco Smoke.
Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios. This is 107.5 The Game.
A great selection of new Chevys is available now at Herndon Chevrolet. The lot is packed with inventory and more is on the way. So shop your hometown Chevy dealer today.
Stop by or shop online today and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile. It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour
with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head
on your home of the Gamecocks.
107.5 The Game.
This should be played at high volume, preferably in a residential area.
And back in on the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Tyler West and Chris along with you, continuing our conversation about the quarterback room at South Carolina as we are just a couple of days from spring practice getting started. Talked about Spencer Rattler, who of course will be the starter this past season or this upcoming season in the last segment. Going down the depth chart a little bit to Luke Doty at the number 2 spot. And Chris, you spoke to him last week for the Garnet Trust Hour. You know, you talk about Spencer Rattler transferring in here last season. And when you look around college football, there are so many cases of a superstar quarterback coming from another program and coming in, and the guy that was assumed to be the starter, you know, taking offense to that and then taking his ball and going somewhere else and transferring himself. Luke Doty didn't do that. And by the time he's potentially the starter again in 2024, he'll be in his 5th year of college football, taking a red shirt last year. But he's kind of a dying breed in this game that we have today of a guy that's willing to wait it out for his official turn.
Well, I think, Tyler, a lot of that, too, is just that, you know, by all indications, Luke is just happy. And, you know, I think sometimes guys maybe get caught up just in the sports side, just in the football side of their experience. And, you know, for Luke, I think it's been more than that. It's been greater than that. And, you know, he's just a kid that I think has found his home at South Carolina. He's very happy socially. He's very happy within the program on the football side as well. And, you know, I think that has led to those decisions there. And I do think, you know, it's kind of one of those things. Sometimes we'll put a spin on something, or people will put a positive spin on something. And, you know, you can find a positive in anything. You can find a negative in anything. So there was this thing of like, well, this could be good for Luke to learn behind Spencer for a year. And, you know, the player themselves may be sitting there going like, no, that sounds awful. I want to play. Like you can sell it like that, but I want to be on the field. And I'm sure Luke did want to be on the field, but I think he truly did approach it like that. Like he truly did buy into the fact of, look, I have not had a redshirt year. I've not had an opportunity to actually learn. And, you know, he got just thrown into the fire. Like I think people, you know, they're going to tire of me saying this, but I think people got to remember, I mean, they had him playing wide receiver his true freshman year. This is a COVID year anyway, so the practices were all jacked up. And then they're at the end of the year, they're like, hey, go play quarterback. And then, you know, the next year for him, which will be 2 going on 3 seasons ago now, he's playing, but he's never completely himself. He's never completely 100%. And then so last year he redshirts behind Spencer. So, I mean, I look at it as, you know, last year was finally his opportunity to sit back and learn and, you know, make progress and stuff like that. And, you know, I think very few teams actually, I would imagine in the country, probably feel as good about their QB room as South Carolina does right now.
Yeah, I mean, when you look just at, and we'll get to some of the other guys in that room, there's 6 scholarship guys, you know, all who have talent and some, you know, not much experience overall. We'll get to some of those others, but when you just look at Luke, you know, that is quite the luxury to have someone who, A, you know, is going to represent you completely the right way at quarterback, but B, has not only program experience, but playing experience and starting experience. And you're exactly right. You look at that 2020 year that was so messed up, and, you know, it's like, hey, you're a true freshman who's bounced back and forth. Our team's not very good. What do you think about going and starting your first game against Georgia? You know, and that's a tough thing to do. That's a tough thing for any quarterback. And you can go back and think of some big time freshman quarterbacks out of high school that came into college, and some guys that had even bigger expectations than a Luke Doty. And it wasn't like they came in game 1 and just lit it up. You know, some of those guys went through struggles. Some of them went through periods in which, you know, maybe sometimes they sat behind a guy. Spencer Rattler sat behind a guy at Oklahoma. Maybe it took those quarterbacks, you know, midway through the season before they kind of just eventually rose to the top and became the guy. And for Luke, it's been just all these combination of different things. When he got his chance midway through his freshman year, it wasn't under just normal circumstances. Then he's had the injuries and the bouncing back and forth. So I do think it was good, for him to be able, and it's not just learning about sitting and learning behind Spencer Rattler. It's just being able to kind of learn and be able to take that step back just in general.
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, you took it out of my head, but, even Spencer redshirted. So,
yeah.
I think, the number of different offensive coordinators, and unfortunately he's going to have another offensive coordinator this year, that has affected Luke, I'm sure, as well, that you're having to learn different schemes, different terminology, different things along the way. And, not someone that really played a ton of high school ball at QB either. Sophomore year, he played wide receiver. Junior year was a full year at QB, and that was when he really, I thought, took a huge step forward as a player, was set and was started, was having a huge year as a senior in high school at Myrtle Beach, and then got injured and, was never able to come back and be the guy there after that because of the injury. So, I think for him, just has been a string of sort of unfortunate things, but I think people do sometimes forget, like, he's still a very talented kid, a great athlete, and someone I know South Carolina is very excited to have in their QB room.
When I want to tell you guys about Amy Mason Cup at State Farm, my family was looking to switch and save on our insurance. We called Amy Mason Cup, and her team, knowledgeable, responsive, helpful, experienced, all that stuff. They took care of the rest. They can help you with all sorts of policies, from auto to home, business, boat, renter's insurance, life insurance, and more. Amy's a South Carolina native and a local agent, and she and her team can give you a personalized quote to help you switch and save and to meet your needs. You can also ask her when you call her at 803-772-5554 about the new Drive Safe and Save app from State Farm that has interactive maps and driving tips and can help you earn up to 30% savings. You just download the Drive Safe and Save app from State Farm, or just ask Amy Mason Cup when you call her, or visit her website, or go pay her a visit, 612 St. Andrews Road, Suite 4 in Columbia, or AmyMasonCup.com. That's Amy, MASINCUPP.com. And that's 803-772-5554. Again, that's Amy Mason Cup, State Farm. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. So even though USC has Luke Doty on the roster and Spencer Rattler on the roster again, that makes you feel great as a coaching staff. Spencer Rattler had some games last season. Y'all remember we were sitting in here, Wes, and there was some conversation among the fan base about making a change at quarterback. And Shane Beamer stuck with Rattler. He stuck with Marcus Satterfield during the season. They changed some things. What was the term they kept using? Mainline, streamlined.
Streamlined.
Yep. They cut back what they were doing offensively, and they made some alterations. Still run a lot of the same plays. But he stuck with him and gave him that fairly long leash. He gave him that fairly long leash, right? I think we can expect the same this year. Is that fair? And the second part to that is, do we think Spencer Rattler takes the next step this year?
We can answer that question on the other side as we continue on with the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs on 107.5 The Game.
Here's what's coming up on The Game.
Hey, it's Chris Clark. Make sure you tune in Thursday at 10 a.m. Gavin Cassis from Gamecock Baseball is going to take a break from hitting homers to hang out with us on the Garnet Trust Hour. Hear it live at 10 a.m. on Thursday here on 107.5 The Game.
Your home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game.
If your kids are bringing home itchy company like bed bugs, call Donson Pest Control and get that riffraff taken care of. But boyfriends or girlfriends, those are on you. Visit DonsonBROS.com to find an office near you. Donson, the pest professionals you trust.
United Way of the Midlands is hosting its inaugural Books and Brackets College Basketball Challenge for as little as a $10 donation. You'll play for good and feel good. Knowing proceeds support childhood literacy through the Midlands Reading Consortium and the Asia Wilson Foundation. Grand prizes include a Rolex watch or a 2023 Buick Envision and other prizes ranging from a Dell laptop to a number of gift cards. Submit your bracket today at uway.org/BNB. It's the United Way Books and Brackets Basketball Challenge.
Whether at the dining room table or cheering on the Gamecocks, you'll find the best meat buying experience out there at your old-timey meat market. Their shelves are stocked with various cuts and grades of beef, pork, poultry, seafood, and exotic meats. The selections are always fresh, never frozen, competitively priced, and of the highest quality. Get all you need at Old Timey Meat Market, St. Andrews, South Congaree, and Lexington.
Old Timey Meat Market. Quality selection, a cut above the rest.
Hey, this is Ray.
And Mary Ann with Absolute Glass.
And we're happy to have been voted Lexington's best glass store for 13 years in a row.
Many drivers are unaware that your cracked windshields can be replaced, usually at absolutely no cost to you.
If all the high-end car dealerships in town can trust us to do their glass needs, so can you.
We service the Midlands both at our shop in Lexington, but we are also happy to come to you at home or work.
Find us online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com. And remember, if you can see through it, we can do it.
Hey guys, Jay Phillips here for Integrated Media. You know, one of the reasons we all live here in South Carolina is the weather, right? We love being outside as often as we can. And these days, Integrated Media is enhancing that life by installing amazing outdoor home theater systems that give you the best of both worlds. Amazing picture and sound from equipment built to be outside. From completely weatherproof SunBright TVs to Sonos soundbars or in-ground speakers and subwoofers, Integrated Media can completely change how you and your family enjoy time on the deck, patio, or around the pool. Call 803-948-8327. Let Integrated Media come out to your house, see exactly what they can do for you when it comes to an outdoor system. And when you couple it with Integrated Media's professional-grade Wi-Fi, you won't believe the home theater experience is just as good outside. Check out some of their work on Facebook and Instagram, then call 803-948-8327. Home theater, Wi-Fi that works everywhere, home security, and much more. Do it all better with Integrated Media.
Heath here with the mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder from First Palmetto Bank. And if the new year has you building or buying a new home, you need a guru in this market. First Palmetto Bank is owned and operated here in the Midlands, and Jacob has local decision makers, which means quick and precise processing and underwriting. If you're looking to make a move, give Jacob a call, 803-719-1005, or email him at jcrowder@firstpalmetto.com.
Thanks, Heath. Interest rates have stabilized. The local housing market also has stabilized. Now is a good time to buy a house. At First Palmetto, we have products that help homebuyers keep payments down. Also, if you are considering building your future home, please ask me about our no-nonsense construction loans. The new year brings change, and if I can help you, please give me a call, 803-719-1005.
So to follow up, rates in the housing market are stable, which makes now a good time to buy.
I'd say that sums it up.
Great. Call Jacob Crowder today, 803-719-1005.
My NMLS number is 198432. First Palmetto Bank is a member of FDIC and any clause and lender.
911, what's your emergency?
My husband is hurt.
Can you tell me what happened?
He was digging a hole. There was a loud noise and he fell to the ground.
Don't be a statistic. Always call or click South Carolina 811 before you dig. Sponsored by South Carolina 811, aired by SCBA and this station.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour.
Presented by Firehouse Subs. Founded by firemen with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head on your home of the Gamecocks.
107.5, The Game.
And back in on the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs. Gamecock baseball team back in action this weekend out at Founders Park, taking on Bethune-Cookman. And actually have 2 pair of tickets to Saturday's game out at Founders Park. First pitch for that coming up at 4 o'clock. Callers number 4 and 5 right now. You'll win yourself a pair of tickets each at 803-404-6100. Jumping back into our conversation about the quarterback position. You guys brought it up before the break there. There was a time last season when Gamecock fans were having the conversation about, is Spencer Rattler the right answer? Do they need to make a change at the quarterback position? Put Luke Doty in, and Shane Beamer stuck to his guns with Rattler and Marcus Satterfield, and it ended up working out at the end of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've seen Shane Beamer takes an approach where I think he likes to stay the course, and you know, I think he doesn't like to panic. Obviously, he's not the guy, you know, coaches have different approaches. We saw, Steve Spurrier was a guy who's very quick to make a move. And, I think we've seen in a greater sense, we've seen Beamer's teams sort of hang in there, even when there have been maybe issues along the way. And I feel like you could say they finished both of the last 2 seasons on a high note. They've gone through some, maybe growing pains, but part of the reason I believe that they've been able to do that is because he also has stuck with his guys, I think. And there's not a sense of, if I make a couple mistakes, I'm going to get benched, or, I'm not looking over my shoulder, I think. So, I think we've seen that play out with the quarterbacks. We've seen that play out with the greater sense of the team as well. And, I think Beamer kind of knew what he wanted the offense to be, and they decided just to continue to tweak it as opposed to making wholesale changes. And obviously we saw that work out for them last year. I think going into this year, Chris, for me, I'm more intrigued. I'm more interested, especially going into spring practice next week. Let's maybe keep it, with that. And what's relevant with that, I would say the guys, when you start getting behind a Luke Doty, behind a Spencer Rattler, who enters spring practice as the third string quarterback, who exits spring practice as a third string quarterback. Is there even a third string quarterback listed on the depth chart?
That's a good one. Depth chart analysis season coming up.
Yeah, but even if there's not a guy listed, there's still one. There's a third person to walk out there and take a snap.
Yeah.
And so, I wonder who that would be right this second. I wonder who that would be in 1 month when we're closing in on the spring game.
So the other day I had a piece on GamecockCentral.com, and I'm basically doing a format of where I'm asking a couple questions about each position. And so I had those 2 questions. Really, mine pertain to exactly what you said. What will the depth chart look like? That was one of my questions, and that meant going in and coming out. Will there be any changes? And the second part of that question is, how far can Lenora Sellers rise up that depth chart? He won't be. Is he going to be 3 going into the spring? Probably not. Probably not.
I would say almost no chance.
Almost no chance. But can he be coming out? Well, we're going to see. But my guess, this is my guess, Wes, and honestly, that's all it is at this point. The third guy to take a snap. Tanner Bailey? Are you there?
You mean at the beginning of spring?
The beginning of spring. No?
Yeah. I mean, that's probably where I'm at. I don't know. Because here's the thing: you have a new quarterbacks coach, a new offense coordinator. They haven't really been able to see the guys throw a whole lot at this point. Does some, not that he's a senior, but does some seniority play in? As Colton Gauthier get the first, third string reps? Even when you get into the spring game, because the teams are split, like obviously you're going to have Spencer Rattler leading one team, Luke Doty leading the other. So then third and fourth, you're actually not going to be able to tell necessarily who is actually third or fourth. I do think it would be telling spring game, looking way ahead, is the third and fourth, so like the second guy on each team. Is it Tanner Bailey and Colton Gauthier, which I think entering, it's probably a pretty safe bet that would be the case entering the spring. Is one of those spots Lenora Sellers, or do the older guys sort of hold them off? I think this is a big, I think it already is. It has been, and certainly going into the spring, going into the summer, it is a massive offseason for Tanner Bailey, certainly for Colton Gauthier. Lenora Sellers, there's not really a lot of pressure on him. He's the true freshman. He's the new guy. But, if you're one of these other guys, you want to hold off the young guy. You want to hold off. Do what?
And Braden Davis.
Yeah, you want to hold off the guy who's coming up behind you. And, we certainly have already seen and we've heard the reports about Lenoris physically and what he is capable of. Now we're going to get to see him, in camp and playing football and seeing how far along he's come with this offense. So I do think that's probably one of the more interesting storylines with that position. It's great if you're the coaches that you're talking about third string as opposed to, a starter. I mean, do you think, I'll throw this question at you, if Spencer Rattler had left and went on to the NFL, is Lenoris Sellers in the starting conversation this year?
He'll be in the fans starting conversation.
Well,
is he in the internal? Yeah, he's probably in there. I think by the time this is obviously a very hypothetical, hard to project thing. I think by the time the season rolls around, he probably would be in the conversation. And going back to earlier when I mentioned Tanner Bailey maybe being my early, very much guesstimate of being the quote unquote number 3 guy, I'm kind of basing that on what we saw and heard last year. Now, I know we got in Columbia a new quarterbacks coach and offensive coordinator who has not, as you said correctly, Wes, has not worked with any of these guys on any sort of level. So there's a lot to learn. And I think some of that will start sorting itself out pretty quickly, but some of it is probably going to be open-ended, maybe even through the spring and to the end of spring, just in terms of how the depth chart sorts out. But when you look back at Tanner Bailey, I mean, I remember last year hearing a good bit of buzz about how he was looking in practice and how he was progressing. And you heard a lot of good things about Tanner Bailey. Now, does that carry over? Does it change? Does somebody else that's not Tanner Bailey kind of rise up and stake that claim? Very possible. I mean, this is a room where you got, a starter, a backup, primary backup, and then you got 4 other guys basically fighting for those spots. And there's a lot of unique, skill sets within them.
Yeah, I think fans love to talk QB as well.
Oh, yeah.
So Lenoris, I think here's the thing. There's not these open practices like we see back in the Spurrier era. So there won't be the opportunity for the fans to get in there and really watch him throw. But there'll be some videos from practice, right? There'll be some clips. And then the spring game happens. And, you're talking about a guy who just physically is so impressive and is probably going to be in there with the second teamers or third teamers of a split squad. He's going to be physically superior, honestly. And it really sets up, I think, for him to have some wow moments this spring and then in public in the spring game. So I don't know necessarily what it's going to be internally, but I think what you said about the fans and Lenoris Sellers, for a guy who wasn't quote unquote highly recruited or even highly ranked for a lot of the process, the buzz has really started to build. So I think all the more important for Tanner Bailey, Colton Gauthier, Braden Davis to do what they can to hold Lenoris off through the spring going into the summer. But it doesn't really help them that this is not the same offense that we saw the last 2 years. If you're one of those guys, you have that advantage. You have that advantage of being here and learning the scheme. Everybody starts a little bit fresh with a new offensive coordinator.
All right, we'll come back on the other side, wrap up today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs on 107.5 The Game.
107.5 The Game On Demand podcast menu.
Sponsored by Lexington Orthopedics and Sports Medicine.
If you're dealing with injuries or pain, our team is here to get you better sooner.
On the home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game.
Hey, what are you watching?
Hi, Greg. It's a South Carolina 811 online course for landscapers.
How much is the course?
It's free. Go to their website, sc811.com, and register anytime. You can complete courses at your own pace.
I will check it out. What's that website again?
sc811.com.
Enroll in a free South Carolina 811 class today and always call or click before you dig. Sponsored by South Carolina 811. Aired by SCBA and this station.
Hey, this is Ray and Nathan with Pope Davis Tire and Automotive.
Dad, we've got a serious problem.
What's going on?
I'm getting complaints about people falling over when they hear how low our prices are.
What? Wow, I said make them low, but maybe you went too low.
Like a 17-inch tire for a Camry, only $75?
You did go too low.
Everyone, please sit down before you check our prices.
We are all about safety first at Pope Davis Tire.
Find the right tire at the right price at PopeDavisTire.com.
This is for the men who never settle, the ones who believe only quitters and a game and a tie, the type of guys who choose the bar with the biggest TVs to overcompensate for theirs at home, and the men who use PTO to catch afternoon basketball in March with the boys. This is the Lodge mentality. This is Twin Peaks.
Who wants to settle for a single TV? With more TVs, bigger screens, plus our fabulous scenic views, there's more to watch at Twin Peaks.
Finding great people to hire is like trying to find a needle in a haystack. It's pretty difficult, right? Well, ZipRecruiter has mastered finding a needle in a haystack, so they take it to the next level. They make hiring so simple that it's like finding a needle in a needle stack. And that's why you should try ZipRecruiter for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. Here's what it's like to use ZipRecruiter. They have so many qualified candidates that it's easier to find the right ones for your roles. In fact, 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. That's a lot of needles. So how do they do it? ZipRecruiter's powerful technology sends you candidates who are a great match for your job, and you can even invite your top choices to apply. So if you want less hay and more needles, head to ZipRecruiter.
And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com/RADIO. ZipRecruiter.com/radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Man, I did not need this today. Hey, Serena, call Schroeder's Towing.
Okay, finding boaters rowing.
No, stop. Call Schroeder's Towing.
Sorry, I can't find rotors crowing.
Oh, jeez. When you need help fast, call Schroeder's Towing anytime. 772-7930. In fact, put it on speed dial. 8 locations and 21 trucks to serve you fast 24/7. And don't drink and drive. Schroeder's will take you and your car home. 772-7930.
Schroeder's Towing, the best and fastest hookers in town.
Broadcasting live from the Herndon Chevrolet Studios. This is 1075 The Game.
Discover Herndon Certified, Herndon Chevrolet's premier used car warranty. Shop with complete confidence knowing Herndon Chevrolet has got you covered.
Stop by or shop online today and see why Herndon Chevrolet makes you smile. It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour
With Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head.
on your home of the Gamecocks.
1075 The Game.
A few more minutes to go in the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs here on 1075 The Game. Do want to let you know about the 1075 The Game Spring Golf Classic coming up on Friday, March the 24th at the Charwood Golf Club in West Columbia. If you want to be a part of it, give Charwood a call at 803-755-2000 to register. It's $100 a person and $400 per team. Going to have some great autographed gear from Gamecock athletes, and one lucky person will win season tickets to all remaining USC baseball games. Lunch will also be provided by Firehouse Subs. Don't miss your chance to be a part of the 1075 The Game Spring Golf Classic. As we continue our conversation about the quarterback position going into spring practice, I guess the biggest X factor, you guys talked a little bit about it before the last break there, was this Dow Loggins offense and the fact that we don't know exactly what it's going to look like. We have some ideas based on what some of the players have said in their various media availabilities, but we know Spencer Rattler is going to be the starter. Luke Doty's going to be that second guy, but you guys are kind of talking about that, battle for next in the pecking order. Does what Dow Loggins bring from an offensive scheme maybe benefit one guy more than the other as we go through spring and learn a little bit more about it?
That's a good question, Tyler. It really is. And I think I would sort of say no. However, I do think there may be one advantage which I would probably give to Spencer Rattler, and that would just be that he has now played a full season of game reps in what you would at least say is a similar pro-style concept scheme. Now you're going to have different terminology, you're going to have different concepts, you're going to have, it's a different offense, and it's a different guy calling it. So there will be things where everybody has to learn. And I think that does give you somewhat of an equal footing just on that part of it. But, for Rattler to go through what he did last year and to really start to get comfortable towards the end of the year in Satterfield's scheme, I really do not, and I've said this several times, I don't think South Carolina wants to reinvent the wheel on offense. That would be silly to do that the way they finished last season. So I think for Rattler, there is a little bit of an advantage just in having played in this. However, I don't think there's necessarily a skill advantage for anybody where you just look at it and say, that guy's skill set is such a different skill set that it fits what they want to do on offense better than this other guy. If this was maybe, one of those schemes where a dual threat quarterback is heavily involved, where there was QB run heavily involved, you would maybe, pick a guy that had that skill set at the top of the repertoire. In this case, I think there's enough similarities between the guys that it's just going to be about who goes and performs. And, obviously Rattler will be the guy and, it'll sort of, play out from there.
And I thought you made a great point, though, talking about the backups and how that clean slate of having a new offensive coordinator could benefit a guy like Lenora Sellers, because, again, Sellers isn't going to come in this season barring injury or injuries to other players and be the starter. That would certainly be a huge surprise to everybody. But what it does do is it kind of reduces that learning curve. He's a smart kid, lots of smart kids in this room that can pick up this offense. And from what we've been told, probably the goal is to make it an easier offense to pick up in general. And that's going to help your quarterbacks and everybody else and help your team get on the same page. So it's not as if I'm saying Lenora Sellers couldn't pick it up. It's just when you have guys on the team ahead of you who are more experienced in the program and have been in the offense that you're going to run for a year or 2 years or 3 years, you are at a disadvantage just naturally. And so I think all those things may help him ascend the depth chart maybe even more quickly than we anticipated.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's on the same starting ground, I think. And, it's not a case either where, these guys have been here for 3 or 4 years or something like that, like a Luke Doty who just I think there's value to having a better feel for just the college game and college life and being comfortable in your shoes and just knowing, how to get around town, just knowing how things work, being out on your own. But, Tanner Bailey, Braden Davis, those guys have been here for 1 year. So, I think there's not this huge step forward, or step ahead, I guess I should say, that they have over those other guys. I will say, it kind of, I was reminded when you were talking about what happened last year, how, we did see Tanner Bailey start to pop up on the sideline for road games. And that generally is it's a signal, I guess. Like if you're looking for signs, you're looking for signals, it is a signal if one guy travels because you have that shrunken roster compared to at home. If a guy travels over someone else, sometimes there are some matchup things there. Sometimes there's maybe a nagging injury or something that necessitates that. But for the most part, it can be a sign of movement on the depth chart. So Tanner Bailey, that is generally a reward for a guy stepping forward, I think. And we saw him traveling late in the season in some road games.
One question I want to make sure that we get to before we get out of here does pertain to take it back to the top, Spencer Rattler, and him taking the next step in the progression of his game. I have a thought on that. Wes, do you want to tell the people first, though, about one of our partners?
Yeah, our friends at Integrated Media, they actually saw these guys at the baseball game on Sunday.
Yep.
That was. And they were there to witness the home run ball from Gavin Cassis as well. But our friends at Integrated Media, you can give them a call, 803-948-8327. If you want to watch those baseball games all year long on your perfectly hung brand new HD TV and stream them on SEC Network Plus with your excellent streaming service and your excellent Wi-Fi, then our friends over at Integrated Media can help you do that. It is your home, but much smarter. So anything that involves a smart home, you hear Jay Phillips talking during his ad all the time about maybe getting some outside speakers. Maybe you want to grill out and still listen to the game outside. Any of those things, whatever your heart can dream of when it comes to audio visual, our friends at Integrated Media can help you with that. 803-948-8327, or just go to integratedmediainc.com.
Yeah, so on Rattler, the biggest step, in my opinion, that he'll need to take this year, and it's something that Shane Beamer very strongly harped on in his pre-spring press conference. He was very upset, Beamer was, about the amount of turnovers this team has had the past couple years. They've been not only last in the SEC, but they've been towards the bottom nationally, both of 2021 and 2022. And part of that is obviously fumbling, but also turning the football over through interceptions. When you look at it last season, Wes, 18 touchdowns for Spencer Rattler, over 3,000 yards. A lot of that past the last two regular season games. 18 touchdowns, but 12 picks. And so for me, that's the biggest thing for him, is cutting down on those decisions or those errant throws in 2023.
And the biggest thing for the entire offense, I think, as well.
And I think, and this is something we'll dive into, of course, throughout the spring, how much will this new offense help not only Spencer Rattler, but the rest of the offense cut down on those mistakes whether you're looking at fumbles, interceptions, just being comfortable. You know, you got the sense watching this team at times last season that they were, pressing or weren't quite on the same page. And so there's been so much talk with Dowell Loggins' offense about streamlining some of those things. Spencer Rattler maybe playing with more tempo, which he likes, which we saw more of the end of the year, simplifying things, allowing everybody to play fast. That's going to be a huge key to this season, I think.
And to, I know we got to get out of here, but to do so while continuing to actually just go play. Like, I actually saw this thing on Instagram. I don't know what it was from, but the human mind cannot think of the negative. So if you say, don't think of an elephant, what did you just think of? You just thought of an elephant. So you can't go play by saying, don't turn the ball over, don't turn the ball over, don't turn the ball over. So I think very important for South Carolina and their team to try to get rid of the turnovers, but while continuing to just go and play clean ball, but play free ball as well.
Yeah, if you're constantly sitting there thinking, okay, can't turn the football over. I can't try to make this throw because there's a chance that it might get picked off, or I'm not going to try to squeeze through here as a running back. That's not going to work out so well. You got to go play fast. You got to go play free. Spencer Rattler, I mean, you look at his body of work, some of the best throws that he's made, some of the biggest plays that he's made during his career at South Carolina have been throws on the run and, improvisational plays, but you have to make sure that you're still playing within the structure of the offense and making good decisions.
All right, that'll do it for today's edition of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs. Be back same time, same place tomorrow to wrap up the week here on 107.5 The Game.